All right, hey Nat, hope all is well. Obviously, I've been watching a lot of your matches lately, and I still plan on doing an analysis, but I felt like when I was watching your videos, I couldn't explain it kind of the way that I wanted to. So I thought I would just do it a little bit more in person, if that's okay. So from there, kind of what I noticed about the way you play, it's very obvious, again, your strength as a player has always been playing into space, running at defenders, running in behind, dribbling players. So it's kind of when they give you space. What I think is not quite your strength yet. I'm not saying you're like weak in this, but it's just not your strength because you're so good at what you're good at that it makes everything else, look a little bit lower, even if it's still at a pretty high level. So but one thing I think you could do a little bit better is just kind of like that first touch and kind of like setting yourself up to play in that first touch, if that makes sense. Particularly if you're like in tight spaces and you're trying to like maintain possession. It might be in the central part of midfield or, out wide, something like that. But playing really in those tight spaces and setting yourself up. So I actually think what I'm about to share with you right now is kind of one of the secrets to elevating your game really fast. It's really subtle, but it actually has like a major impact. Like I wish I knew this when I was your age. I wish I had someone show it to me. So I'm gonna tell you, show you what I mean. So from there, what's awesome about you and very interesting is if I watched 22 players playing and they were all blurred out on a screen, I would be able to figure out exactly who you are, kind of from your very unique biomechanics. Like you have your own distinct way of running and playing, and that's actually great. But what I noticed is that you take a lot of little steps, and you do them very quickly, and you do them kind of, I want to say like a little bit sporadically. Like it's not always 100% in control. I feel like you're going for speed more than control sometimes. And there's a time and what I'm trying to say is, again, there's a time and place for everything. So I want you to use fast little steps at times, and there's other times where I want you to take like larger, maybe more controlled steps, and it will actually help you out. And I'll kind of explain what I mean. And we're just going to talk about, the first touch, how do I set it up, and things of that nature. Okay, so first things first, let me kind of talk through the biomechanics. Your mom told me that you want to be, or you're thinking about being a physical therapist, so that was something that I want to do when I was younger, so I think that's really cool, but that also means you probably enjoy biomechanics. So biomechanics just means basically like the way your body moves, especially in orientation to the ball. But in soccer, right, biomechanics is kind of like the most important thing to having good technique, right? Because if you don't have good biomechanics, even if you know what you're doing, your technique will never be on point. So we got to make sure we're always, you always hear me talking about staying low, having a wide base, being athletic. That's always a start, but let's kind of take it the next step right now, okay? So this is something I actually didn't learn until recently, and playing pickleball has actually helped me with that. Sometimes, when you learn from other sports, it can help you in your main sport. So what do I mean? What am I really getting at right now? Okay, so let me take the ball out of the equation for a minute. Okay, so if I take a lot of little steps, you'll notice a lot of footballers do that, especially like Messi. He takes a lot of little steps, and there's advantages and disadvantages to that, right? The advantage is that you can change direction at any moment because you're constantly replanting your feet and you're constantly changing the angles of your feet so you can push off one way or another, right? So again, you'll see, even in the NFL, if there's a guy guarding a wide receiver, he's always kind of going back and forth with his feet, right? Up and down, super fast, small steps. But if you watch, players in tennis or sometimes in football, like when they're taking, longer, straight sprints, they'll take longer strides because the longer stride you make kind of you're not able to change direction as fast. But if you know which direction you're going, it's actually a little bit more efficient because you're not constantly picking your feet up and down, if that makes sense. Because you're losing time by going up and down. Whereas if you're just taking one long stride, it allows you to work in that one direction at a faster rate. Okay? So, the point I'm trying to get at is if you're trying to change direction, smaller steps. But if you know which direction you need to go in, then take larger steps. It'll be a little bit more efficient that way. So again, if you're sprinting, longer steps. If you're going for a 50-50, maybe smaller steps. Okay? So from there, how do I relate this to your technical side of the game and in your game in particular? So what I've been noticing, again, is a lot of times when you get the ball, you'll have it, and the ball will be really close to you, which is usually a very, very good thing. But there's a time for the ball to be close to you and take a lot of little steps, and there's a time for the ball to be a little bit farther away from you and take a little bit more efficient steps, right? So let's talk about our first touch first, okay? So obviously, you know how I coach. You know how I always, I think there's a time and place for everything. But in order to know what to do, we have to know what's around us, right? We got to be checking our shoulder and kind of painting a picture in our brain to say, okay, there's an opening behind the left back, so I need to turn and play it in behind them. That's where the space is, okay? But point being is we have to scan. We have to know what's behind us. We have to paint a whole picture of the pitch. Okay, so if I'm getting the ball and I check my shoulder, I know I'm going behind me, okay? If I go behind me and I play this ball in here, okay? Now, the first reaction might be, so I'm playing directly behind me, so I may want to take that touch directly facing my target, right? So just straight in front. But I actually know that's not the case all the time, okay? And what do I mean by that? That's because if I take this touch, let's say it might be hard to see, but there's like a little yellow gate over there, okay, with my spots. But if I take that touch directly facing my target, right, now it's going to be difficult for me to play this ball first time, meaning one touch to control, a second touch to pass. It's difficult for me to do that simply because the ball is too straight on my body, right? So it's kind of hard for me. I would have to kind of bend my run and get this and get my right foot around the ball to wrap it around. Because, and I think we talked about this a little bit in some of your other videos, is I want the ball, in order to create power for the pass, okay, I need to have a little bit of a hip rotation. I mean, my hips kind of rotate that way. In order for me to do that, the ball needs to be a little bit outside of my body so I can get around it and go through it like that. If it's too straight, right, there's no hip rotation. My hip can't rotate, right? So I can't generate the power that I need, okay? So what I'm trying to explain is if I were to receive this ball from here and I know I'm going to take one touch to control and one touch to pass, I actually want this ball to be maybe a little bit on the outside of my left side of my body so I can play first time, okay? Or perhaps I play it a little bit out in front like this, maybe a little bit more of an angle, okay? A little bit more like that, and then wrap the right foot around it, okay? Point is, it can't be too straight, okay? And on top of that, which I wanted to mention, is if it's too straight and it's going like that, it's actually running away from me a little bit, and therefore I'm going to be kind of reaching to hit it, and I'm not going to get the cleanest contact in the world, okay? But if it's going a little bit sideways, it's not quite running away from me all the way, so I can get around it, okay? So even if you're doing, a touch kind of like this, right? Let's say I have another gate over here. It's kind of hard to tell, but let's say I'm here. Okay, same idea. This ball comes into me. If I want to play over there, okay, I could either kind of let it come across me and do a one touch, but let's just focus on two touch right now. I would actually do it like this. Get that ball. I would actually play it more often than not a little bit in front of me, a little bit more like that, and then I can play with my right foot, okay? This is called the touch and punch method, okay? Where I take that touch with one foot, and then with my alternate foot, I punch it. And I'll talk a little bit more why that's important, why we alternate feet. But point I'm trying to get at, again, is if I took that first touch facing my target exactly, now I have to take 1, 2, 3, way too many steps, okay? And I have to readjust my body because now I need to get the ball on the outside of my hips, okay? Whereas when I did the touch and punch method, I kind of pushed it a little bit forward, not in front, not facing my target, just a little bit diagonal, and then I could take that quick pass, okay? Okay, so we understand now that the ball needs to be a little bit outside of the body, okay? That's important. Now the next thing is, how do we, let's talk a little bit, let's talk about footwork, okay? Once we get that ball outside the body, we kind of want to set ourselves up in terms of our steps. So we have the angle, now let's talk about the steps. So, if I'm doing the touch and punch method, again, this is the most effective method, and I'll show you why. Ball comes there, okay? I take that touch, a little bit of a diagonal, so right here, and I can play that right foot. Now, the reason why that's better than playing my left foot twice, so, it goes on the outside of my body and go like that, is I would have to take a touch, let's just say that's the touch, then I'd have to readjust myself, and then I'd have to go 1 and 2, at least, if not more. It might be three or 4 steps, okay? But I also had to replant myself, rebalance myself. Now, if I go here and I take that first touch here, I barely have to rebalance myself, right? Because my right foot is already on the ground, and I can just go touch and 1 step, and that 1 step puts me in. Whereas it might take 2 or 3 steps over here, right? When I take that touch, my right foot has enough of a pullback or a load. It has enough of a load that I can swing it across. Whereas when I go like this, I need to now create that load to get behind the ball. Okay, when I say load, I mean like kind of pull it behind my body, and then I have to go forward through it. But it's already like that when I alternate feet. Okay, so I take less steps and the load is already set up, so it's a much more efficient way of passing the ball. Now, the problem with that is sometimes, it's not a big problem, but the touch and punch method is a little bit more useful when we're playing in tight spaces, right? So that's when you use the touch and punch method. Is tight spaces, lots of bodies, not a lot of space, not a lot of time, so we got to play quickly, right? Because pressure is coming on. But it's a little bit more limited to playing in like a short pass, right? You can still do a long pass, but I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so if I did the same thing, let's say I get the ball like this, I'm going to have to take a heavier touch. Let's say I want to do a diagonal pass in behind the defense now. So I take that first touch, kind of like the touch and punch method, but now since I'm going longer, I'm going to have to generate a little bit more power, okay? So I'm going to have to put my body a little bit more into the ball. So I will take that touch forward, okay? But now my touch is going to be a lot heavier, and now I'm going to be able to take let's just do 1, 2, and then 3, okay? So the point I'm trying to get at is short passes, obviously, we want to take 1 step maybe, or at least 1 short step, and for a longer pass, we'll want to set ourselves up for maybe 2, max 3 steps, if that makes sense, okay? So again, reason why that's important is because sometimes, not all the time, but just for a lot of players, they'll get this ball, they want to go long, they take the touch too tight, and now because it's so close to them, they're going to have to take another touch. So they took one touch, one step, two step. Now they take a heavier touch, 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden, the opportunity's gone. Right? We're not able to do it. We've been closed down. We can't go like that. So keep in mind how many steps we have to take if we want to go long. Okay? Now, if I take this ball, okay, and like I said, we're going to go long, I want to set myself up for 2 or 3 steps. I want to be able to wrap my foot around it, okay? But if I'm playing this ball, let's just switch it up for a second. Let me go over here, okay? Right here. And let's say I want to go straight on again. So like I said, I'm going to take that touch, put it outside my body, because I'm going to go straight on, a little bit outside my body. Now, I wouldn't actually, let's say it's about 2 yards away from me, maybe 1.5 yards away from me. That's perfect, because like I said, now I can take my steps and put my whole body through the ball to go long. But if sometimes I see you do this, that ball will be a perfect touch, okay? And we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's not going to be the most effective. And the reason why that is because when we take longer steps, now we can bring more momentum into it. We can put our whole body into it when we make contact with the ball. And also, we have a bigger load now. If I take lots of little steps, I can't load this leg behind me. Okay? So basically, it's just less efficient when we're executing a pass, a shot, going long, things of that nature. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're in a situation where we're playing short, okay, maybe touch and punch method, bang, I could take a quick few steps. But if I'm trying to go long, I'm going to have to take a heavier touch. 1, 2, 3. That's the bang, okay? 1, 2, and play, okay? But if I were to take a heavier touch and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, it's not going to be as quick. 2, it's not going to be as good as a pass, right? Because you're not going to be able to load it as much. So I know it's a little counterintuitive, but when you take larger steps, you take them, again, before we're about to execute a pass, a shot, something like that, but the larger steps will actually get you the ball quicker and give you a little bit more load. Last thing I'm going to mention, okay, and again, even from a dribbling perspective, right? So if I'm dribbling, I beat one, let's say I'm the left winger and I'm trying to cut inside and shoot, right? I might beat the defender, taking lots of small touches because I want to be able to change direction at any moment. That's why we take those small touches. We keep the ball away from the defender, but I can also change where I'm going at any moment. So I'm taking lots of small touches, lots of small steps, but when I decide to, make my move, cut inside, I actually want to play the ball a little bit more across me, not quite forward, not quite behind me, at a little bit of an angle, almost sideways, but a little bit more angled, and then I can do 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? Now I can shoot, but if I were to take the touch too small, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can't do that. I can't finish right away if the touch is too small. Or if I take the touch that's perfect and I take too many small touches, I'm not going to be able to get my full, basically my full body into the shot. So it's just less efficient. It's not as quick, and you can't put as much power on the ball. The last thing, and I say this to you specifically, been watching a bunch of your videos, even watched some of your private trainings at, I believe it's called the Football Factory, and just kind of watching your biomechanics. One thing I always noticed about you is, again, your body, I feel like you're going so fast. Your mindset is, I need to go fast. But there's a time to go fast, and there's a time to kind of be prioritize control. I'd rather you be in perfect control and then go as fast as you can rather than go as fast as you can and trying to get back into control. Again, sometimes one is better than the other, but generally speaking, I'd rather you prioritize control. So your body, the way you kind of move is, again, kind of very like fast twitch, you know what I mean? But when you're in those moments where you need to prioritize control, just kind of be a little bit more efficient with your movement, you know? Meaning like don't have to move your arms as much, don't have to move your feet as much. So to be a little bit more specific, when you are getting the ball, I want you to kind of take one step at a time as well. So sometimes I've seen you take touches like this. Ball comes in, you take this touch, and then your first step is actually with your right foot. So you made that touch with your left, and then you kind of go with your right foot. Before you've even planted your left foot, right? Before you've even planted your left foot, you're kind of already lunging to the ball. But you have to bring both feet on, or at least both of the feet on the ground before you can take your next move. So what I'm trying to get at is sometimes I see you almost jumping into the ball because both of your feet are off the ground. I want you to make sure that there's one foot is always on the ground to regain your balance and your stability. So again, I'm doing the touch and punch method. Bang. I take my touch, 1, 2, bang. But as soon as I take that touch, right, I know, and I get both feet down to rebalance myself, okay? So that's just one thing, a little bit more specific. Try to have your whole body moving in an aligned way where, oh, excuse me, ball got away from me. But I just want there to be a little bit more alignment in your general movement. So take that touch, 1, 1, 2. My arms are moving in sync. Our lower part of our body is moving in sync. Everything is kind of working together rather than sometimes like your arms may be going like one way, this one's going another way. It's just all moving in direct alignment. We call that the kinetic chain in the world of biomechanics. So it's just all in one situation. Kind of like you see with sprinters. When you look at sprinters, their whole body is like going forward. Their arms are going forward, their head's going forward, knees going forward, so there's no wasted energy. And that's kind of what I'm asking for you to hear. So be balanced, take one step at a time, sometimes take bigger steps. Make sure your kinetic chain's moving in the same way there's that alignment, because it will actually be much more efficient and it will actually be faster. It doesn't sound like it would make sense, but I would almost challenge you to, run, maybe like do lateral sideways movement, like in pickleball or in tennis. If I went like this, 1, 2, 3, I'd actually be much faster than if I went like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like I'm going faster because my feet are going up and down super fast. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. But if you go fewer efficient aligned steps that are bigger, it's going to be a lot more efficient for you. I hope that helps. Was trying to figure this out and the best way to communicate that with you, and I'm hoping this will be helpful. So let me know what you think. Hopefully we can get on a call soon or something like that. But always proud of you. Keep up the good stuff, and we'll be in touch as the season goes on. So thanks again. Hope this helped. And if you have like any questions or you didn't understand something from today, just let me know. Your development is like, it's like a conversation that we're constantly, it's like an ongoing conversation. It's never going to stop. There's never, we will never reach perfection. So I'm just here to help. So let me know. And excited for the season for you.